Welcome to Lynn's Warriors. Today's conversation comes from a place no parent should ever have to stand. We are joined by Joann Bogard, a survivor mother whose son Mason lost his life after participating in a dangerous online trend known as the choking challenge. What may appear to children as a game or curiosity can turn deadly in just seconds. Joann's story is not only about her loss, it is about her courage and what's happening now. Instead of retreating into silence, Joann has stepped forward to speak, to educate all of us, and to warn other families about the hidden dangers that exist online and in the social pressures our children are facing every single day when they're online. We also want to acknowledge the countless parents, along with Joann, who have worked tirelessly, often through unimaginable grief, to bring awareness to these dangers. Because of them, the conversation is changing. This is about truth. This is about accountability. And this is about protecting all children. Please support Joann and follow Mason's message on Facebook. We'll have all of Joann's information in the body of this video. Joann, thank you for being here. I recently spent time with you. I was so honored, and really humbled to really get to know you and some of the other parents. I want to thank you for being here, taking the time, and for your strength. And I love you so much and all the parents. So welcome to the Warriors.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
I want to start with Joann. This is really your story to tell, right? What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with anything you want? Tell us about Mason. Tell us about yourself. Anywhere you want to jump off here.
I love talking about Mason. The tragedy, is hard to talk about sometimes, but when I can talk about who he really was and how he still inspires me, that's what makes me smile. So Mason was our youngest of three. At the age of 15, he wanted a YouTube account. I was that parent who set up all the safety features, everything the experts said. We had the conversations often about safety online. And Mason would typically look up YouTube videos. He liked to learn how to master his woodworking skills, or he was learning how to forge metal and steel. And so he would look up those things online and watch videos, always sharing his videos with us and what he learned. So Mason was our outdoor kid, and YouTube was pretty much the only platform that he really enjoyed. And so that's what he was on. And then one day in 2019, almost 7 years ago now, the YouTube algorithm fed him the choking challenge, also known as the blackout challenge or the pass out challenge. And Mason tried it. It was fatal to him. Mason was on life support for a week. When we got home, we looked in his phone and he had recorded himself trying this. And so we could tell from the video that he had no idea of what he was doing could be harmful or deadly. He was, we assumed, doing it for those likes and laughs and clicks that kids crave, and just the community that they want to belong to. And but unfortunately for Mason, the ligature that he used was supposed to loosen, and it locked in place. And so he was without oxygen for too long, and we lost him to that. So,
Joann, I'm so sorry. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I want you to know I have Mason's message, the bracelet you gave me.
Yeah.
You gave me the bracelet, and in Florida. When we had our parents' survivor weekend, and we'll talk about that if you want a little bit later on. It is just so, I don't know what the right word is, Joann. We have to have parents hear your messaging. It is so critical and crucial that they understand, it's not parents' fault. It's not kids' fault. This has just been all thrown at everybody. And now we have to talk about it, and we have to have this awareness, and we also have to have accountability. For Warriors listening, for parents, and we have a lot of grandparents that listen to the Warriors, would you please, they may not fully understand. Do you want to talk a little bit about this choking challenge, this blackout challenge? Because it's still going on, and why is it still going on? And kids are being exposed to it. So just explain a little bit, if you want, what this exactly is.
Sure. So, kids do what kids do. We all used to spin around in the yard and make ourselves pass out and get dizzy and all kinds of things. And then there have been for generations, there have been different forms of choking yourself, whether it's in a choking someone else in wrestling or a sport or military, or there's also a sexual component to that. But then it has grown into just kids and people in general, but mostly kids choking themselves to pass out and recording it and then uploading that video. They would pass that. They use a ligature, and the purpose is to make yourself pass out. And then when you pass out, the ligature loosens and you wake up and you post your video on whatever platform you're using. And you want to get those likes and laughs because that's the community our kids crave. When I was younger, it was I invited to the birthday party? Did I get to sit at the popular table? And did I get invited to a dance? Kids don't really care about that anymore. Their community and their acceptance into their tribe lies within those, how many friends do I have online? So they're very quick at accepting friends online that they don't know, which obviously often are predators and bad people. But with the choking challenge, it is something that has grown more and more popular, especially with TikTok. It's called Blackout Challenge on TikTok. And again, it's been around forever. But the problem is that the algorithm decides to feed it to kids unsolicited. And kids see hundreds of these videos of kids making themselves pass out, getting likes and laughs. And so then they try it with this false sense of safety that I'm going to wake up and post this. Well, in many, many cases, it goes wrong. It goes horribly wrong. And just since Mason died, I personally know of over 100 deaths from the choking challenge just in the last 7 years. So it no matter how much I can warn them, I go online every week and I look up the choking challenge and it pops up in minutes. I find dozens across the platforms. I report them using the feature that they have, the reporting feature each platform has. I report them every week. They're rarely taken down. And in their terms of agreement on almost every platform that I've seen, their terms of agreement say we will not allow harmful challenges or bullying on our platform. And yet we know that they do. So there's a misconception out there of how safe the product really is, the algorithm and the platform. And as you know, Lynn, these platforms promise these things, like we don't allow these things on our platform, yet they do nothing about it. So
yeah, it's interesting. First of all, I want to go back and just say nobody really can understand until it really something happens to them, the pressures put on our kids today, right? About all of this and how something seemingly, out of curiosity can turn to tragedy, right? As in the case with Mason, like within minutes. And as you're pointing out about these algorithms, I posted recently, I think in the last week, a 9-year-old girl because of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
She died because of taking this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, there's been no real accountability for big tech. Despite what you pointed out, they've got, we don't accept this and community safety. And we do know, Joann, that, they do have the ability to censor because, I could be talking about something about Jeffrey Epstein and they won't allow me to post it.
Right.
And it's like a fact. I'm repeating from a vetted source. I'm not making things up and putting crazy things online. So we do know it can be even a political figure. They don't like a story, they censor you. They don't allow it. Goes against community standards. I've had that so many times. So they do have the ability. But now you're in the state of Indiana. I want to get into the 2 trials a little bit. And you were present in LA. But you've done some tremendous work in the state of Indiana. Tell us how what you've done and how you want to encourage other parents and family members to really step up because, Joann, I think in 2026, like right now, all of us can and must do something. This is affecting everybody, even if you don't have children. You have friends, you have family members, and how it's really destroying our youth. I mean, our future American adults. So tell us about what you did in the state of Indiana with all of this.
Sure. So, right after Mason died, it, obviously there are no words for how you feel when your child dies, but what happened was we decided to donate Mason's organs. And so the Indiana Donor Network asked if they could video his honor walk. And an honor walk is them taking him on his last journey from the hospital room to the surgery room to donate his organs. So there was a lot of coverage for that. And, Mason being a hero in doing that. And that video that they did went viral. So within just a few months, it had over 40 million views. Wow. So I was getting messages from people all over the world. I would have to translate to, because it'd be an island in South Africa that I didn't even understand the language. And I was trying to answer all of them. And then I watched The Social Dilemma. And I realized this is the problem. The algorithm is the problem. And so that's when I decided all of these people who messaged me said, thank you for, offering condolences and thank you for speaking up. What can I do to protect my child? And I didn't have an answer to that because obviously I couldn't protect my child no matter what I did. Being a diligent parent, putting all the protections in place, having the hard conversations, none of that was enough. So I decided that I needed to stand up and do something. And I know at first I thought, I am just a mom in Indiana. I don't have a platform, a voice. What am I going to do? And I quickly learned that that was simply not true, that we all have a voice. Our system, our legislative system is built so that they can hear our voice. Our legislators need to hear from us so that we can tell them what we need and what we want. And so I got a law passed in Indiana that would put education, give teachers in Indiana schools the tools that they need to provide education to kids on not only how to navigate the internet safely, but, and how to turn safety features on and those types of things. This was more. I wanted it to be, if they hit an emotional wall, I wanted them to know how to pivot to get out of that. So if they were depressed, is it because of social media or whatever? And so that law passed. And then we just recently, a couple of weeks ago, got 2 more laws passed. One is for anyone under the age of 16 has to have parent permission to be on social media on the major platforms. And the other one is Indiana was actually ahead of the game, and we were a phone-free school state, but it wasn't bell to bell. It wasn't from first bell to last bell. They still could have their phones in the hallways and lunchtime and recess. And so that wasn't enough. So going to our state legislators and letting them know we wanted it bell to bell. So that was also just passed. So the state level, we are really working quickly and fiercely to get legislation in place. And that's pretty gratifying. So,
yeah, excellent work, Joann. I have to, as you're, sharing all of this, information with us, and you've been so vocal and really just, I want to say a star parent. I know that sounds a little, because, you speak for a lot of parents that can't speak, don't want to speak, just can't emotionally speak. Joann, how do you take care of yourself? Is it the work itself that empowers you? I'm very serious about that because
it is. My husband and I talk about this a lot because for him, he finds peace in going to the cemetery, talking to Mason, and he talks sometimes about it, but it's very difficult for him to tell Mason's story. I find that for me personally, sharing Mason's story, talking about who he was and who he still is in this world, because it's him and these other kids who have died, they're the ones that are actually changing the world. When you see their faces, that's what's changing the world. But just as far as taking care of myself, that just spreading awareness and not only keeping his memory alive, but protecting other children and trying to make sure that other families don't go through this tragedy, and ensuring that we have change put in place so that that doesn't happen. That's what feeds my soul. That's what motivates me to get up each day, to do something else that can protect someone.
Yeah. Well, Joann, you're the true definition of a warrior. I mean, you really are. Let's talk about LA. So we had two recent wins. It's hard for me to say wins because all of you parents putting out this information, all of the studies, all of doctors coming forward, educators, groups, organizations telling us, about the harms to our kids from big tech. But finally, there's some accountability agreement. Yes. So we had New Mexico, first win, and that was about consumer protection laws. And that was basically kind of the bottom line. Predators were allowed to, on the platforms and interact with children. And then LA, tell us about that. Because when I saw the pictures that came out of that and the faces and just unbelievable. And I like to say, and I've been saying, I know other people are now saying it as well, this is just the beginning of accountability and a new path forward. Tell us about LA.
Sure. So I was looking up. There are so many organizations, like you said, there are so many organizations speaking up and doing more than just speaking up. I mean, these organizations are raising funds so that the parents can go to DC and go to LA and be present and have a voice in all of this, and making sure that the press is there and doing all of these things that help us. And we are so appreciative collectively and individually for that support. But in LA, in Los Angeles, I was able to be in the courtroom. It was a lottery system. Only 12 people from the public could be, other than reporters who were pre-approved. Only 12 people were allowed in the courtroom. And on the first day, they had YouTube actually had placeholders in line. So they paid people to stand in line so the parents couldn't be in there, which is just another sign that they are so against any of the changes or the parents' voices. They don't want to hear from us, right? They don't want to change because that's how they make their money. And so I was lucky enough to get in the 3 days that I was there. One of those was Mark Zuckerberg's day in the hot seat. And as infuriating as it was to watch him lie on the stand, I wasn't surprised because I was at the hearing, the Senate hearing in 2024 as well. And when he had to turn around and apologize, and just hearing the lies there and hearing the lies in the courtroom, there was some sense of gratification, because even though he was lying again, they had evidence in front of the jury that said, well, what about this study? And what about this study? What about, when he said in the Senate hearing and on the stand that there's no, and I'm paraphrasing, no correlation that proves that social media or Meta or Instagram or Facebook, any of them, that there's no correlation between his platforms and harm to children. That was just a lie, because they revealed publicly, not just to the jury, but to the public, which is an amazing thing. All of the records are public, millions of pages, that 18 out of 18 experts, they did an internal study, and 18 out of 18 experts warned them not to use the beauty feature, the beauty filter feature, because it would be harmful to the mental health of children. And they opted to use it anyway. So, I mean, that was just one of hundreds of things that came out in the courtroom. And it was, the whole thing was bittersweet, because it was nice to see the accountability coming forward. And obviously we're thankful for the juries and all the work they put into it and the final thing that they came to. But it was also very hard because it was very emotional, because the cost to get to that point was the life of Mason. It was the life of all of these children. Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of children who have died, and even more who have been harmed mentally, emotionally, and physically. But just the cost of life and the cost of mental health that it took to get there is just unforgivable. It's just that they knew what they were doing and continued the status quo at that cost.
I mean, it's hard to even believe that any amount of money, like morally, like somebody could put their head on a pillow at night. And even, we had Mark Zuckerberg, and there are others, right? Big tech CEOs, who is a father, right? Who's on record somewhere saying he doesn't allow his kids on social media. He put out some statement one time. I don't know if we can find it anywhere, but he did, because I remember this. And also showing up to court where some of his entourage had on Meta glasses.
Yes.
Not only is that like so blatantly in your face, parents and world, but from a legal standpoint, I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I'm married to one, but I'm not a lawyer. You can't go into a courtroom and have things being recorded or witnesses or the jury outed or even parents, right, who didn't. How dare they? So this is a person, we have to agree, and history tells us, really just doesn't care.
Right. I think the arrogance and the I'm untouchable mentality, I think that's something we're going to see flutter away a bit soon, because here, apparently Big Tobacco, which is kind of a similar type case with the bellwether cases and all, they lost a couple of bellwethers before they won them. And here we have 2 cases in 1 week that found them guilty on all counts. I mean, that's just unheard of. And that's just, it's amazing. And now we're going to have, I think there are over 1,600 more cases already on the docket to be tried against these major companies, these major social media platforms. And so I think we're going to see even more and more evidence come out. And I think we're going to see the tide shift quickly now that we have this. I think that the hard thing for parents is if you already have, I speak in schools a lot, in churches, and if you already have a child who's on social media, who has a smartphone and a tablet and a school-issued device, there is a real addiction there. And it's very hard to be that one parent who steps away, because we all want to think, well, that won't happen to my family. Right. This could happen to any family. And that's something that I struggle with, when parents think that it can't happen to their family. Well, they're almost 18, or they've already had it this long and it's been fine. I know the harms because I've seen them. I've seen these kids be exposed, and within 36 hours of joining an Instagram page, a child dies from suicide because a predator contacted them, and they were extorted, and it just goes, the list goes on and on. It happens so quickly. Parents don't have time to even process how to keep their kids safe. So what I see as a trend right now is the kids who already have social media, my goal is to make sure they understand how these algorithms work and how to protect themselves emotionally when these things happen, and physically when these things happen, because they will happen. They will be approached by predators. They will be cyberbullied. They will have all of this exposure to porn and all of these things that they shouldn't be exposed to. So that's all going to happen. And so just educating them about that is one thing. But what I'm seeing trending now is the parents who have kids in preschool are the ones who are stepping up and using that voice that we want them to
Yeah.
use and say, no, you're not giving my child a device in preschool or kindergarten or first grade in school. I'm not giving them a cell phone. I'm actually locking down my cell phone so they can't get my cell phone as a parent. So, I mean, those are the trends that we're seeing. So I think our voices, which are meant to be heard, is what is changing all
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. A couple of things. I mean, I could talk to you day and night about all of this.
Mhm.
We have to always remember and warn all our warriors out there, wherever the kids are, so are the predators.
Mhm.
I share with you, Joann, when people say to me here in the middle of New York City, my child would never do that.
Mhm.
Okay. No. Okay. I used to also say, up until fairly recently, vulnerable communities, vulnerable. Every child, every family is vulnerable. I've
Mhm.
changed my tune. Um,
Mhm.
I spoke to Bryant Montgomery recently, who
Mhm.
was on the trip with us, right, in Florida. And his child, Walker, was, trading Bible verses. And then just a couple of hours later, dead.
Mhm.
And still really no answers, sextortion. And this is, I point this out. It's hard for me to even say this, right? Because, and you spoke to Mason and you had conversations and
Mhm.
it's happening to everybody and we can't accept it. And yes, you're correct. The parents of the younger children are now, if nothing else, you've educated this new group of parents
Mhm.
about these harms and your kids were used as guinea pigs. And
Mhm.
this is from youth that tell me, like Lennon, Torres, and all that, we were guinea pigs, and we're
Mhm.
not going to have this for our younger generation of kids. And I also want to say that let's point out, people also think if their child's at home and they're quiet and, they're on the iPad or they're in their bedroom with the door closed, they're safe because they're under the roof of the house. And we
Mhm.
have to point out, no, the predators are there with them as well.
In that
Nobody's
bedroom.
safe, right?
Yeah.
And we always say keep the devices out of the bedroom. I know it's hard for everybody because our public is so overwhelmed and
Mhm.
trying to work and pay bills and take care of family, school. But this to me, Joann, is part of our lives now. This is what we have to all be aware of.
Mhm.
And I want to just point out California, that trial was about product liability, putting out a harmful product.
Mhm.
You knew
Mhm.
this harms. I want to reiterate that because a lot of people are writing to me like, oh, First Amendment speech and parents' fault and all this. No, strictly product liability, which was such a smart angle to get in there at. We can finally leave out the Section 230 for right now, that whole
Mhm.
argument. What do you have to say about any of that or add to?
Well, I think I do want to go back a little bit. I think one thing that I really want to make sure that parents are aware of is it doesn't matter if you have your child is living a healthy, well balanced lifestyle like Mason, or if you have a child who has a natural curiosity about drugs or sex or anything like that. When the algorithms are feeding it to them, that algorithm is going to figure out what it is that they're curious about. Whether, like I said, it doesn't matter if they're living a healthy, well balanced lifestyle or if they have that natural curiosity, they're going to be exposed to it. And that's why I
Yeah.
do think that we need legislation in place. We need state legislation in place for each state to have their voice. But then we also need that federal legislation that you and I have talked about, the Kids Online Safety Act. We need that in place. We need Section 230 reformed so that we can have lawsuits like we've just had in Los Angeles and in New Mexico. Because up until now, you couldn't sue them. They were shielded behind Section 230. And so now I think there
Yeah.
is such a broad sense of awareness that parents are realizing, what we have out there, what the platforms are offering, what they're doing. But the thing that I always warn parents about is they're going to say Instagram, and it always aligns with whether there's a Senate hearing or a lawsuit. It always aligns with that. You'll see commercials. Instagram has new safety features for teens, all of these things. But seriously, parents don't understand typically that those are not real protections. Those are not, they promise 40 plus protections on their platform, and yet when it's tested, only 8 of them work as promised. And then even those tend to filter away after the media dies down. So, one, like you said, we have to keep that momentum going. We have to keep the voices out there so that it doesn't die down. And then the other thing is making sure that your voice is heard in Congress, in a courtroom, in your state legislator's office, wherever it is, your voice matters. And we have to keep that going.
Yeah. And also get involved with our schools, on a local level, understand how are they dealing with all of this technology? How are they dealing with, something I learned, Joann, recently is, so most of the schools force the Chromebooks and assignments online and all that, but that you can actually, there's a new movement. You can actually ask for the assignments to be put on paper, get
Yes.
paper
Parents didn't
packages.
know that. You're right.
But they made it seem like, because they'll tell you in different schools, like, no, we don't do that. But there's no law. They have to give you, if you want, right, a package, and it's actually catching on. I posted about it fairly recently that parents were not even aware about this, and that parents are asking for these paper packages, and kids are kind of thinking it's cool from things I'm reading to have this package, and they're not online. And so I wish the media would cover those kind of things, broader, so that our public, our warriors, can hear about all this. But everybody should know you don't have to be online. Now, we understand kids feel left out if they don't have the device. I don't know, Joann. I'm a great believer in, like, it just takes one warrior and it'll snowball, because everybody will think this is the way to go. It's cool, and it can be done. And we're seeing it with what you parents have done. I can't tell you how many parents contacted me, and grandparents, right, to say, wow, Lynn, this is what you're always talking about, like, accountability with big tech, and look what happened. And so there is a lot of hope, Joann, about everything. And we do have a piece of legislation to sunset Section 230. It does not apply. It's from 1996. A lot's happened since then. Big tech is no longer a billboard or a newsstand. Done. Over. Okay. We're kicking that to the curb, as I like to say. That's being worked on. We do have the Kids Online Safety Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation. Senate version, the gold standard is Senate version 1748. We want to see that. I have a feeling we're going to go places with that one. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, coming together. And Joann, we should also point out, all of this work is about child safety. Everybody can get on board. Doesn't belong to a political party, right? It's about all of our kids. I think it's the last thing, the last topic in Washington we can really all come together on. Let me finish up with you. I mean, what do you have to say about that before I ask you the next question?
Well, and I think that was proven that, when you say kids online safety is something everyone can get behind, that was proven at the last session. The Senate passed the Kids Online Safety Act 91-3.
Unheard of.
How often do we see bipartisan support on any topic? And here they all agreed. Of course, when it went to the House, Speaker Johnson wouldn't bring it forward, and we had issues there. Trying to deal with that. But bottom line is, there shouldn't be any argument about this. When you have basic common sense things that need to be put in place to protect children, you do it. No other industry goes unchecked. No other industry goes unchecked. Social media should not be these platforms should not be getting a free pass, whether it's because of the dollars they have or the status they have. No industry should go unchecked, especially if they're marketing to children. Not for seatbelts, not for car seats, not for social media.
I mean, Joann, I say amen. But I have a feeling I'm saying this, not you. Speaker Johnson will be hearing from us very shortly and addressing, because we can't have something 91-3 in the Senate, right? And then we think, wow, this is kind of a no-brainer. And then it goes to the House and is collecting dust. It's unacceptable. And all of you have been working so hard and sharing your stories, and it's just not going to be, but the tide is changing. let's finish up, Joann, with, again, I believe things are just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here when we have AI, this artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
that to me is a threat to all of us, and not only to everything, whether it's our workforce, our just, economy, but really to our children and families.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Again, I think it has to do, I think it all boils down to our voices. We know that I mean, everything has a role, right?
Yes.
Social media, it can be good. I spread awareness on Mason's message social media page on Facebook. That sounds contradicting, but it has a good side. You
Yeah.
can use it for good, but we all need to be aware that there are bad people out there. So when it comes to AI, it's the same. Yes, AI can be a very useful tool if you use it as a tool. But once people start using it to replace other people and humans, then it's not a tool anymore. And I think that's what we really need to look into, and making sure that we still have humans in the loop. We still have humans saying this is okay and that's not okay, and being in the classroom, having the human teachers in the classroom, not having AI on their Chrome devices or anything else. Again, educating the kids before we expose them to these things is key. They have to be educated, not just handed the AI tool, as you will, not just handed that and learning as you go, because that's when the dangers start. That's when they get exposed to things they shouldn't be exposed to. And as you know, we've heard of and seen, and I've personally met, I know you have too, met parents of kids who have died from AI chatbots and different things. And again, these are diligent parents. These are parents who didn't know. So your show here and all of the standing up, it takes many voices, many voices. So parents, youth, educators, all of these people need to stand up, speak to your legislators, speak to your schools about not allowing AI for kids.
Absolutely. Um, I'll throw this in. That was a good final thought. But Joann, any final thoughts you want to share with us going forward? Because this is a conversation, discussion, whatever you want to call it. We have to keep doing it every single day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to keep chipping away. I believe that creates success. What would be one or two final thoughts you want to give our public?
Well, I think one thing is for parents, just making sure that you keep that door of communication open, that you make sure that you're having, when they were younger, you talked about stranger danger. You didn't just tell them one time. It was a constant. Now, don't talk to this person. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't go there. It was stranger danger constantly. And there were often reminders. And I think just keeping that door of communication open and normalizing the talk about social media and how it could or can harm you. And if you're ever in this situation or that situation, come to me, we'll fix it together, because that's where kids seem to shy away from mom or dad or my guardian. They're going to take my phone, or they're going to take my tablet, or they're going to tattle on another student who bullied me, or but keeping that conversation open, I think, is key to keeping our kids safe, making sure we normalize those conversations, and often. That's a big thing.
Excellent final point, because as I tell parents, communities, they're seeing everything online anyway. So let us be the ones that open those doors to communication and tell them it's okay. We don't care if you did something, a nude image, or because a lot of parents say to me, I don't want to open a can of worms. I'm like, they're seeing it anyway. They're hearing it anyway. Let them. We may not like it. We don't like it, but this is the world we live in. So let us be the ones that guide them and have that open door and tell them the next steps, and ignore these predators, these strangers. Well, Joann Bogard, I mean, I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for sharing Mason with us, and turning this unimaginable loss into such a mission, and a movement, being part of that to protect others. And again, we want to recognize all the parents who've worked so tirelessly, so bravely in front of Congress, in front of their, state legislatures, in front of their communities, to bring these issues to light. Your voices are being heard. I really believe this, Joann. Your impact is real. Absolutely. And because of you, I mean, change is happening. Your story is really also a warning. These trials have ended in New Mexico and Los Angeles, but we don't have to worry anymore about, the question no longer exists. Are these platforms causing harm? Now we have who will be held accountable and will prevent tragedies, and we'll move forward with awareness and education and engage all of our parents out there, all of our family members.
Absolutely.
We believe awareness is protection, and it's our responsibility, all of ours, to come together on this. And you really are a leader. You're at the forefront in the battle with this, Joann. So I am very honored and very much humbled to get to know you and to continue working with you. And we stand with you, and we honor Mason today and every day, and we'll continue to fight together. So let us speak again soon, Joann. Thank you for everything you do. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I can't do my job at the Warriors without you. And so thank you. Thank you for being such a warrior.
And we appreciate you using your platform to spread awareness and support all of these parents, because we couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Joann. Thank you.